most important tool in terms of determining what kind of team you have here is the Analyst report in comparison. So here we have a number of tabs to segment different stats that you might be interested in, and you can filter it based on members of your team being in particular positions on the pitch. So if we start with an idea of our general team, this is our team in comparison to everybody else in the Vanarama North. So you can see here our average age is higher than the average within the league, so we are mature, if you like, but there might be one or two old players, and recruiting youth will be important. If you look at our average height and weight, is considerably lower than the league, so we're a team that could potentially be bullied physically if there are teams willing to go in tackling hard, or just using their physical strength. We could get pushed off the ball, so we have to have a think about that in terms of tactics. International appearances is irrelevant at this level. We're just below the average in the league for average player wage, very low for transfer value, and you know that's worthy. We can of course filter that, but I don't think there's a great deal. So let's have a look at our general stats across all of our positions. Decision making. This is the quality of decision making under pressure. We are lower than the league average, so if opposition teams decide to press us quickly, forcing our players into quick decisions, they're likely to make mistakes. That will be an area we might need to be careful of. On the positive side, our team has a greater than average first touch ability, a good passing ability, is reasonably strong, works hard, above average, and isn't too far off the mark in terms of quality of teamwork. So we could optimise this, and if you have a look at it from an outfield player point of view, let's take the goalkeepers out there. Still similar story, although we've got probably good quality keepers, because you can see we've lost a little bit in here. These attributes, these interesting ones, leadership and aggression, are intriguing because they are considerably off the mark. Aggression will control whether we're willing and able to get stuck into tackles, whether we can bully the opponent off the ball effectively. Combined with our light weight and lack of height, a low aggression might mean that we're not a team that can effectively get stuck in. So we probably will be better off focusing on something a little bit more technical and cultural, but we'll get there in a moment. Reviewing our keepers, so let's take off all of our other staff. We can see we are blessed in goalkeeping at the moment, probably due to our number one goalie, because our backup goalie is a bit all that, but a massively high kicking score compared to the average. So our ability to, if you like, the fifth set piece after throws, free kicks and penalties are of course goalkeeper distribution. We might be able to get some goals from our goalkeeper kicking long and hitting our target attackers. Very high score on reflexes, which is going to be good, and handling scores are good. Command of their area, so the ability to control from corners and what have you. Little bit concerning that we're low on 1v1. It might mean that we want to drop our defensive line a little bit to give the keeper some protection from counter-attacks and people rushing from the back. We'll have to have a think about how our ability to defend against counter-attacks. Distribution is a strength, clearly either throwing or kicking is going to be very good for us. And agility is not too far off the mark, so I think we've got a good strong goalkeeping base to the team. Let's move up to the defence. I'm going to take goalkeepers out. I'm also going to take strikers out, and we'll have a look at the team. because we're doing most of our defending from the defensive unit and in the midfield as well. We're not the greatest tacklers in the world. We have significant deficit on jumping, and we're not that strong. So again, as a light technical team, we're not going to be able to compete very effectively for longer balls. So that might argue against a direct passing style. We might want to keep it on the ground and keep it short and simple, so that it's not up in the air and our team and thus having to try and head the ball effectively. But these two are very interesting. Acceleration and pace, we have the best in the league. So this has a number of effects. In defence, i.e. high speed and high acceleration means we're very difficult to catch on the counter. So we can play a much higher line with a reasonable expectation of success against most of the teams in the league. In attack, a high acceleration and pace might suggest that we play a counter-attacking style. We invite the opponent onto us and then hit them on the break. So this is something to be very considerate about. Let's have a look about pace in attack. If we include our strikers in, just the strikers in the mix. Okay, they're still high on the acceleration and pace, and interestingly on tackling as well. That might suggest that we can use our attackers to press high up the pitch, close down the opposition defence and goalkeeper. So we might be looking to assign a pressing forward role to make best use of that. Let's move to midfield stats, and we'll have a look at our midfield in isolation just to see where our strengths and weaknesses are. Our passing game is very good, or at least better than average. Long shots and vision are unfortunately a little below average. So rather than taking shots from midfield, we might be better, if we have the players for it, working the ball into the box, using our above average passing in order to place those through balls. Stamina's a little low, teamwork a little low in the midfield, but our tackling is reasonable, decision making reasonable, and our technical skill is reasonable compared to the average. There are going to be plenty of teams who are out midfielding us though. These midfield stats are a little low. Our only real advantage is our passing game. So when we're looking at our tactics to employ, right now, given our current playing personnel, a passing game rather than a dribbling game, I think will be where we're at. So in attack, and I'll include midfield in strikers in here, we can see the pace and acceleration are key strengths, but also our off the ball is a good strength as well. We're not very good at anticipating, so we might get caught out by offsides quite a lot. It might suggest that we shouldn't pass into space, because if our teamwork is below average and our anticipation is below average, in general we would want to be playing into feet rather than kicking it ahead of the player, anticipating movement that they might not make. Our vision might be quite poor as well, so we do have this weakness in jumping and heading, so keeping the ball on the ground rather than punting it into the air might be good for us. And again, the long shot deficiency compared to our finishing suggests that we might want it on the floor. So from an attacking point of view, from a striking point of view, yeah, very much it's about mobility and speed for the offense. So let's just have a quick look at the physicals. Acceleration and pace are our key strengths. Agility is good as well. Jumping is a weakness. Stamina is a little low as well for a high pressing game. On player mentality, we've got a bit of a thick team here. They're not aggressive, poor anticipation. They're not very brave, which means again jumping and heading game is not going to be a strength for us right now. our composure is considerably lower than the average. So we might be wasteful in front of goal. Our concentration is low, so we're going to make mistakes at the back. Determination is reasonable. Flair is reasonable. Lack of leadership in the team, might have to address that. Our off-the-ball stats are good, so good movement should help with a passing game. And let's just look at our technical skills here in the outfield. Corners are poor. Free kicks are disastrous, with the worst in the league. Penalties are not good. So set pieces, we are a disaster. Now that can be quickly fixed if we can hire somebody with decent dead ball skills in terms of corners and free kicks. We can boost those stats very quickly. We're not blessed with good crossing or dribbling, so again probably a passing game, and discouraging other types of ball movement will help with their decision making, because we're just reducing what they need to think about. Decent tacklers, I like that. Decent at marking as well across the board. So something where we close down the opposition and encourage them to tackle, but if we're weak and not very brave, perhaps not asking them to get stuck in, but just standing off them a little bit, but close down their options. We're not going to be looking for long balls in. So you can see by just going through this and having a think about each of your sort of offensive, defensive and midfield components, you can identify strengths and weaknesses within the team that in the long term you will fix by recruitment activity. In the short term you can adopt a tactic that emphasizes your strengths and protects you against your weaknesses. And in the next video I will create an initial tactic for Brackley Town based on these statistics. And it looks like at first instance I'm going to be looking to be playing a short passing game, so more of a tiki-taka style, and we'll cover the meaning of the phrase tiki-taka for those of you not blessed with football knowledge. But it's going to be a short passing game, and from a defensive point of view we're going to be making much use of our acceleration and pace in both offense and defense as we can, while trying to protect ourselves from the fact that we don't have the best jumping, bravery or heading capability. And from a recruitment point of view, it probably indicates we're looking for somebody with good dead ball skills in the first instance. We've got a little bit of space in the wage budget. We've got no transfer budget. So when we move on to talk about recruitment, scouting and recruitment of playing staff, then I can show you how we'll go about identifying where we can boost the team through analysing our current abilities and the kind of player that we might be looking for. And we can set our scouts, once we've hired them, the task of going and finding them for us. Anyway, I hope you found that useful. I know it's kind of 3 videos in and we haven't even looked at the football yet. But that's the good thing about this game, I find, is that it's not totally obsessed with the match itself. Because managing a football team, it's about finances, it's about recruitment, it's about staff, it's about development and training. And there is a whole world of football that has been put into this game over years that makes it very compelling and complete in my view. So I hope you enjoyed that tour through staff assessments and hiring new staff, and also looking at assessing our teams in terms of overall strengths and weaknesses, and then we'll take this to the next level and make a selection on tactic, and then really refining the tactic for the playing staff that we have and recruiting to cover the gaps. Thank you very much for joining me, and I'll speak to you soon. Take care. Goodbye.
I fought with lions and wolves, but I've never fought myself before. It's over every